Review Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's an artist wear many hats, father, educator, and creative dedicated to active listening and bridging societal divides. None other than Mr. David Deighton. Welcome once again, Mr. David. On Book 101 Review, one of my podcasts. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Oh, yes, it's great to be on here. My name is David. I'm an abstract artist from France living in the US. And I have a very unusual project, an art project where I find ways for us to bridge our societal divides by speaking to strangers and using active listening in order to find bridges with people we may disagree with about the taboo subject of politics.
Politics indeed. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world once again, Mr. David. Thank you. So today, let's talk about how to bridge our societal divide. We talk about the societal divide. We often picture politics, which is true. What is the less obvious but equally powerful system, generational, economic, or technological that we must also address to truly heal?
Mm, right. So, as in these days, we seem to be very much ruled by our digital devices, don't we? We spend much
Yes.
time on them, and they entertain us so much. But they're also the source of some divisions, as we tend to follow our own echo chambers, being in our in group of whatever the algorithm feeds us, which are the things that we want to see, but we have very little idea of what other people are doing, are thinking. Only through our phones do we seem to have that an idea of what the rest of the world may look like, rather than just talking to other people in person and finding out what they're about. And there's a sense of disconnect that is happening in our world, and we're all aware of it. We speak about it in our media and in books, and it's part of popular culture that we know we're becoming polarized, and that we're at a moment of great tension. And my question as an artist is, how do we should we do anything about this? Should we find a way of bridging this divide that they speak about? Is there a divide? Can we speak about all subjects with other people without getting upset and outraged? And I think most of us know that it's not a proposition we want to do. We don't want to have these conversations with people we disagree with, especially about a taboo subject like politics, because it could go badly. But my experience in reality from having hundreds of encounters with people in person of all different walks of life and different thoughts is that we can have very civil conversations about all of these issues without getting upset at one another. Mm.
Civil conversation indeed. And what's a core human need for security, recognition, or purpose do you believe is most often being expressed, even poorly, through the anger and rhetoric of division?
Yes, yeah. Um, well, I think we might be losing our methods of having conversations. Sometimes um, it appears that we no longer take the pains to have these conversations because we're afraid of what the outcome might be, um, and we leave it maybe to others or to the thought that nothing can be done. that we are not the person that will be able to do anything about that because we feel maybe insignificant and without power to face such obstacles, or we do not want to face the discomfort of having a conversation with another for something that will just have no importance whatsoever. You know, those might be our approaches, but deep down inside, for the people I speak to, and I imagine your listeners feel the same way, is may feel the same way,
Hmm.
um, is that this might not end well if we don't take small steps to reconnect with people that we may have disagreed with, family, friends, coworkers, that we decided to avoid because of things that they believe in. And if that's the case, we that for society at large will we might decide to do just the same and not bother. And that's not just a shame, but dangerous for the foundations of free societies and democracies, where we actually have a lot of power if we were to exercise it beyond the vote. I mean, the voting is one thing. Not very many people vote these days. Not enough, surely. It's certainly not 100%. Um, but we have even more power than the vote. And I'm not talking about those that get involved in politics and joining different associations and groups. We have a power in interacting and engaging with others and being present for them and listening in to what they have to say. And um, and hopefully, if we're asked, we can also share our own opinions. And if I say that, that also means to some that how can I possibly do that? I've tried it, and I've gotten in many arguments. There are methods to approach it, and through my experience and practice, which started out certainly with arguments and outrage um, at what people were telling me. I wanted to respond and get my point across. I realized after I don't know how many conversations, let's say 100, because I'm so slow, is that uh, is that if I leaned in and didn't focus so much on what people were, the facts and opinions of what they were saying. I mean, listening in, hearing what they had to say, but not giving, not getting triggered, not getting not getting upset by the things that were being said that may have seemed false to me or misthought. Uh, and found some other commonalities, ones of emotions. If they're upset about something, well, maybe I'm upset about something similar, and that's something I can share. And that right there is our bridge. And I use that as the bridge in my artwork when I have conversations with strangers. Um, and find that's the commonality. It's very basic. It's it's not it's not a super science of any kind. It's just going down to the basics and finding one thing we have in common, and sharing that and saying that we do have that in common, and using that as the beginning of maybe showing our humanity or exposing our thoughts and also our vulnerabilities, and maybe being asked questions in return. But even if you're not asked questions in return, it's okay. Uh, you've done an act of showing that these conversations can take place. And that's good enough for me. Because as I said, we have to start for this foundation with a very, very basic endeavors, very basic um, approaches in order to maintain and reestablish our humanity in all of this. In all this digital mayhem that we live in.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely. And Mr. David, in your analysis, what percentage of our current divide would you attribute to genuine ideological difference versus the way our media, algorithms, and institutions amplify conflict for engagement or profit?
Well, that would be a very good question. I'd ask that, to just somebody that works based in the sciences and empirical research. Mine is very much as an artist is experiential. It's anecdotal. It's my own personal experience, and so I don't have any numbers, but my I can share my impressions from my experience, and the most people I speak to have speak with, they have a desire for to express themselves on subjects that are difficult to share in today's world because of the taboo that politics are these days, especially with people that do not align with your own political beliefs. Um, and one thing that seems evident to me is after hearing what they have to say, and there's there's a willingness for something quite different. They might share a great amount of anger, let's say, about how the system is and what the outcomes could be, and how shameful this is or whatever. But in the end, they have a message usually of hope, and that things will get better, that there is a way to overcome these difficulties, and agree that the message of speaking face to face with strangers is a valid one that they could actually do. Uh, and I'd say the majority of people would agree with that message for the people I engage with. But we have to consider there are also the people that were willing to talk with me, and not everybody is willing to talk to some stranger that wants to ask them some questions or has an art installation in an unusual place. You have to have um, a good space for these things to happen in, a place that's adequate for these conversations to take place, the right timing, not not in a busy street when people are off to go do something or go to work. That's not a good space. They're busy. They have to be in a relaxed environment where they can look in to themselves a little bit, have some time to think and answer and be open. So there's a lot of restrictions to things, but sometimes that opportunity window opens up, and that's a good time to go ahead and act. Mm.
Interesting, Mr. David. So, on mindset and personal responsibility, bridging divide often requires vulnerability. What is the
Mhm.
first internal barrier, pride, fear, exhaustion that individuals need to overcome to even be willing to reach across the aisle?
That's a very good question, right? First, we have to accept to be vulnerable, and to take it on, to experience a little bit of pain, because we're going to hear things that we might not want to hear. Once again, back to the to triggers, uh, opinions or facts that we know to be either we think are wrong or that we disagree with, and those are areas where we feel uncomfortable. Um, Being able to overcome that, I would say, is it's about practice, is trying one or two times and failing at the expectations that you might have had the outcome of this conversation. But do it again, and think about it, and try again and try again. And one thing is for sure, even from the first go, the people you interact with will appreciate that somebody was listening to them for first. That's one thing, that people are willing to be there for one another, and there's an element of curiosity, um, on the curiosity on my part to hear what they have to say, curiosity on their part to see where this might possibly go. How can you possibly talk about politics without getting upset. People want to know how that can possibly be done. Um, and I take a moment to show them how it's done by the interaction, and I invite other people to do the same. Um, been doing it for 6 years now, and obviously with practice, I'm getting better.
Mhm.
There's always surprises.
Always, always there are surprises for sure. And Mr. David,
Mm.
how do we cultivate the critical skill of distinguishing between someone's position and their underlying humanity?
Mm. These are really deep questions, aren't they? Yes, I like them.
Thank you.
Um, um, yeah, how do you do that? Well, just will you be present? I mean, it's using all of your senses to be there for the moment, not to be distracted, um, to concentrate on what's being said, and by using all the senses, and this includes not just the visual and the auditory, not just listening and seeing the person. It's also touch, for example, if acknowledging that if there's wind or something and it's cold on your skin, uh, acknowledging and experiencing that. Uh, the smells can be also not just to the other person. And we use smell so little these days, unless we're in the culinary arts or something like this, and then we know much more about the foods that we eat and the taste and the smells that go with it. But how can that be brought into a conversation? And so I explore how those senses can also be there for also being present. Um, Not necessarily while I'm talking about necessarily about politics, but I'll bring it for with maybe an abstract idea. Uh, if people were talking, for example, about democracy, let's say, I'll say, well, what does democracy taste like? Right? What does fascism smell like? And people will think about that for a second. It takes you to a different space, and there's reflection at that time, and you have to open yourself up, ready to answer such what seems to be a silly question, and be vulnerable yourself to answer it. And but people enjoy the game of it as well, and so people might say that it tastes like a sour lemon or democracy's apple pie or something like this.
A sour lemon. I like that, Mr. David. And what will be your short term and long term goals, Mr. David?
Well, it that's very simple. Short or long, it's to share these experiences with others so they can also give it a go and try to do the same with people they no longer family members they no longer speak to, family, friends, coworkers. Try to reestablish connection, especially if it was on a political issue, by using non-confrontational political questions. And I'll share those questions now because people are wondering maybe what I'm, what the heck I'm talking about. Uh, And the questions are, and it'd be great if you could add it also for your listeners to read on your website later. The questions are, how would you describe the political system of the United States of America, or of Canada, or of France, or wherever you are?
Mhm.
And the second question, of course, you listen and hear what the person has to say, and you're always listening in for some emotion that you might have in common with that person. And the second question is how would you describe your feelings or reactions to the current state of U.S. politics, of French politics, of Canadian politics, or wherever you are? And people say, it allow these questions. They allow people. They're thinking. They're going through it and just expressing whatever they are. But their thoughts are refining as the questions move along to the third question, which is kind of a game where you finish the sentence. And and the question is politics in the United States, blank. And that's where you fill it in. And with each of the three questions, the thoughts become more and more refined. And you're always listening in, finding something you might have in common, trying not to get triggered by the things you disagree with, and trying to keep your tongue so that you don't jump in and say, well, that's false, that's wrong. How could you think such a thing? Stay to the three questions. And at the end, ask them to give you one word that brings it all together. This is my practice. These are the three questions plus a word. Ask them, give me the word, one word that answers all of your questions. And that's a really hard one to do. And people have been giving me hundreds of words. They use hope, like I was saying earlier. There's this message of hope that might contradict the answers to the three questions. There's chaos. There's some foul language as well that comes out as well. It could be it could be democracy, or it could be whatever they want to say, or education, uh, whatever they uh, whatever they come up with, and that's a strong word. They'll be thinking about that long after your conversation, and they'll be thinking about what they said and how they said it and how they could have said it better. And um, as they move on, if the conversation just ends there, they'll be moving on and maybe using the same questions with others, but their political consciousness will be deeper afterwards, because you've helped them, given them space to formulate their ideas. And not only do they do that, they also have taken action by speaking and also releasing maybe some in a sense, for some it's trauma, because they've been wanting to say something for years, and they've been battered online, on, and they can't get their message through, but finally somebody's listening to them, and they let loose, and sometimes even cry, which is always an awkward moment for me. But um, and often one thing that doesn't happen is might not ask you, what are your answers to the three questions. And that's okay. That's okay with me. This point is just to get these conversations going. So in the long term, what I'm aiming for is for other people to accept the invitation to use these questions or any other method to engage with others, to listen in and find things that you have in common, to find commonalities with the other, especially the ones you disagree with politically, if you know who they are. Yeah.
Yes,
Mm.
definitely. If you know who they are, people. So to wrap up our discussion for today, Mr. David, if
Mm.
we successfully raise a generation with better bridging skills, what would be the difference about civil life, their workplaces, and their daily interactions?
Well, we can all imagine what incredible things could happen if we're off our devices and communicating about all subjects quite freely and respectfully with one another, trying not to uh, to prick other people into getting a reaction. I mean, there's a lot of self control. The ones that are going to take up this invitation probably have quite a bit of self. Going to have self control. First of all, they're not going to get triggered. They got to listen in. They're going to show by example, and there's going to be a lot of people that take advantage of that situation, and that's okay as well. Because it's about creating or recreating or reestablishing um, a civil uh, interaction in public spaces, including the workplace, um, when it comes to difficult and delicate subjects. Um, it's not for everyone, but if
Yes.
you're one of those people, take it up.
Take it out, yes. So, Mr. David, thank you so much once again for being part on Books 101 Review. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your podcast, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yes, thank you. That's fantastic.
Yes. Where do people can find you, Mr. David?
Yeah, they can. Well, they found us today, but they can find me on Triptych Dialogue on YouTube, my YouTube channel, and that's TRIPTYCH Dialogue, DIALOGUE, and you'll see different ways how I've approached this very delicate issue, and maybe find some ideas that they can use themselves. Triptych Dialogue.
Triptych dialogue, people. Let's support Mr. David Deighton, because if you support him for sure, more and more empowering triptych dialogue will rise. So, Mr. David, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
Modica people, see you soon.